Hello audience, this is the Cheeky Monkey, and welcome to the first episode of Road to Dark Knight 3, The Master Race. Start this series off right with Frank Miller's very first, and by some people's opinion, very best work, Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. Let's travel back in time to 1986. The Cold War is at its height. Steven Lisberger had unleashed the genius of Tron upon an audience that really didn't care, causing the film to bomb, and action films with a hard R rating were being marketed to kids. And of course, comic books were still thought of as kids stuff, and things like the Adam West series with its bat shark repellent and wham, bow, boom sound effects didn't help. Now, I'm not knocking the Adam West series, I think it's great, but let's be honest, it was most definitely a show that was made for the kids. But the comics industry had decided that the time had come to make comic book films that were marketed towards a more mature audience and had a darker and grimmer style. This style of comic book, which continued through the 80s and all the way into the 90s, where it became ridiculous in the 90s with, well, it was the 90s. Everything had to be dark and edgy and extreme, but I'm not here to talk about that. Anyways, this style started off with Alan Moore's 12-part miniseries Watchmen, and of course, The Dark Knight Returns. This comic came out in 4 parts, and it's truly an epic story of a 45-year-old Bruce Wayne coming out of retirement and facing off against the leader of a gang called the Mutants, who in a lot of ways are pretty much just that one gang from Clockwork Orange, the Joker, and I have to say, the fight between these two is probably the most brutal that the comics industry has ever had between the Bat and the Clown. And finally, Superman. The fight between the Dark Knight and the Last Son of Krypton is one of the most iconic fights in comic book history, and it's done in such a brilliant manner that it doesn't really feel forced or biased. Okay, maybe it's a little biased. But regardless, it's fantastic. In fact, it really sums up the story of this comic. Just fantastic. Notice I said the story, not the art, because the art, it's bad, people. It's bad. Not the worst of Frank Miller's career.
Holy terror, anyone?
But the art was enough to show us, even then, that Frank Miller is a crap artist. Overall, though, this comic gives me hope. I mean, The Master Race takes place in the same continuity as The Dark Knight Returns. Granted, so does The Dark Knight Strikes Again, but that's another review for another time. Well, thank you for joining me on this first step on the road to Dark Knight 3, The Master Race. That's all for now. This is the Cheeky Monkey. Stay classy.